Purple Line is a community podcast bringing you in-depth conversations with diverse leaders in the public and private sectors. Whether you're a student looking to gather advice or a professional tuning in for valuable resources, our dynamic programming provides inspiration and insights for all ages and backgrounds. I'm Marianne Gomez-Horta, your host of the Purple Line podcast and the CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. Welcome. Hello, Maria Luisa Boyce. Thank you for joining us here on the Chili Purple Line. How are you doing today?
My dear Marianne, I'm doing great. It's so nice to see you. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. So, as you know, we have this wonderful podcast opportunity to kind of share different leadership stories with our different audiences. You've been an awesome mentor and an intern host to global leaders and to the alumni of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute. So we want to get to know a little bit different sides of Maria Luisa and kind of your different life journey. So let's get rolling into this.
I was thinking, ay Dios mío.
No. No trick questions. So let's start with that you're at UPS now. You're the vice president of global public affairs at the Washington, D.C. office. But let's go back to where you grew up. So I understand mom and dad live in Honduras, and you're Colombian.
Yes.
But there's like a lot of countries in between that. So share with us, what was your journey in terms of living in a lot of Latin American countries?
Marianne, it was an amazing gift in my life. Now looking back, right, my parents decided to take a risk and leave Colombia in the 70s. I'm going to leave it at that so I don't date myself. And I lived in Nicaragua, Panama, Costa Rica, Ecuador.
Wow.
A few months in Guatemala too, and then I ended up in Honduras. And it really was a journey through Central America.
Yeah.
That was because of my dad's job, and changing high schools every 3 years or schools, it's an adventure. So
Wow, interesting. So could you share with us, what did your dad do, or what was his career like that, moved the family around?
So he's an economist.
That makes sense now.
Yes,
Okay.
I know. Can you see the connection?
Yeah, I can
there?
see that now. Okay, we'll get to that question later. Yes,
Both
okay.
my dad and my mom are economists, and my dad was working for the Latin American Association of Credit Unions, and he was asked to go and help develop the credit union system.
Wow.
In different projects in Latin America with USAID and Inter-American Development Bank, and that's why he started living in different countries. I was telling someone earlier, Bruce, that my mom's family thought that they were crazy. They were leaving Colombia to go to Nicaragua. And my abuelita was very concerned, but you know what? They took the risk and made it happen, brought us, my brother and I, and my grandmother, and here we are.
So you have family in Colombia and in Honduras,
yes,
right?
I should say this, if my Colombian family watches this and I don't say it, I am
exactly.
really
So we gotta make sure.
Colombian.
Yes, exactly.
Todos mis tíos, mis primos, everybody is in Colombia, and I have Colombian family also here in the U.S. and in Canada, but the majority
sounds like a typical
Colombia.
good Latin family.
I know.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So I'm kind of curious, from those experiences, what do you feel you brought from a leadership perspective into other aspects of your life? The idea of going to different high schools, meeting different people, making new friends every time. What are some of the lessons? They're probably lessons now. At the time, they probably didn't feel like lessons, right? But what can you share with the audience that maybe might be helpful to someone who's going through something similar that they've been going through? That
I think it's funny. Like you said, at the time I was thinking, my dad is trying to ruin my life and my friendships, changing me to country to country. But I think looking back, one of the things that changing countries helped me to understand as a leader is that change does happen.
Right.
Things will continue. You will be all right. And I learned two very important values. One, the value of family, that we became stronger, and that I'll connect it to leadership in a moment, but the other one was faith. I lived in countries that were there was a lot of faith around me always. I have learned not to take that for granted, but from a leadership perspective, it really helped me about understanding that when change happens, there's something that you're going to learn, something good and something what not to do.
That's true. That's true.
And also that different countries have different approaches. And from a leader perspective, when you meet different people, you always have to give the grace and understand that they're coming from different backgrounds. And so give them a chance to present that. So I think those were the things that I learned. Took me a while. It wasn't at age 13. It was later. Yes.
Trust me, I kind of assume that. It's like I tell people growing up in a farm worker camp, I always said that civilization was 40 minutes away because that's how long it took us to get to the town. And now you look back and like, oh, it was kind of a different sense of community. Everybody helped each other out. So you feel those lessons later. That's not always in the moment, right? So I totally appreciate that. So one of the unique aspects about your career is, again, being on the board of Chile, is that you have been in opportunities in different sectors, unlike maybe some other board members or people that our interns run into. So you've been in nonprofit, you've been in government, and now in corporate America. So I kind of want to unpack a little bit each of those. So you're, for I think about 10 years or even longer, the head of the Border Trade Alliance, working with the U.S., with Mexico, Canada, people from all across the Americas. So tell us a little bit about that nonprofit leadership experience.
That was amazing. And Mariana, I tell you, that's where I learned so much, and I have so much respect for small business owners and nonprofit leaders, because you learn about the challenges of the fundraising and what moves the inspiration. Running the Border Trade Alliance, it is an organization that advocates for the trade between Canada, U.S., and Mexico. And when I started, we were coming to D.C. I didn't know I was lobbying. I was just coming to D.C. to have meetings.
What do they call it? Advocacy?
Advocacy, yes. We were advocating.
There's a lot of words that fall into that category, yes.
But I learned in the nonprofit world is you have large board of directors, large number, I'm sorry.
Okay, yes.
A large number of board of directors. You have many bosses.
Right.
And how do you keep sight of your ultimate goal? And I think that's one of the things that I learned on those 10 years is that you have to be focused and you have to have a clear picture of where you're going, and also managing your budget. My degree is in finance and international relations. I love numbers. I'm a nerd, and I that was always a challenge, right? Keeping the finance on that piece. The other thing that I love about the nonprofit is the volunteers, the board members, because you learn so much wisdom and different perspectives, and so you get the opportunity to be. To engage with different perspectives and also to learn and implement different changes in the nonprofit world.
So were your board members all from all different countries?
They were from different, so the BTA represented over 1 million constituents along the U.S.-Mexico, U.S.-Canada border, and it was all businesses, cities, and counties that own bridges or ports of entry that were impacted by trade between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And so, for example, I consider myself an adopted Southern Texan because I spent a lot of time in the Rio Grande Valley and Laredo. So I had county chairs or county presidents or city officials, and then companies that were part of the board from the three countries.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of personalities, different stakeholders, different interests.
And different sense of timing, too.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
It's a different approach. So.
Yeah, so to your point, I think having been in all those different countries before, the timing, how people present themselves, and the different stakeholders. As you know, with Chile, we have a variety of people, and the bipartisanship also. So that's helped, I think, to kind of move different issues forward. It's always important to I always tell people it's great to have the diversity, but it's also extra steps to have the diversity, right? And then extra steps to have the decision because you have all those diverse perspectives.
Oh, yeah, totally. And that's one of the things I love about Chile. And maybe this is how my life was bringing me here.
Exactly.
The roadmap.
It actually all makes sense. It all makes sense.
Because having board members from California, from Texas, from Michigan, from Canada, and from Mexico, you have diversity of thought and diversity of perspective. Even in the menu, some want sushi, others want steak, and other wants vegetarian.
Right.
So you have to come together in that part. So it was really a different
learning experience.
Experience.
So you went from managing a nonprofit, different stakeholders,
Yeah.
and then I believe you were an appointee.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Office. So what was that transition, or was it a mentor or somebody? How did you get there?
It is so funny, and I tell this to our mentees, Marianne, because you never know who's watching the work that you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And
Everybody always is.
Yes, and in the BTA I did. So I was 9/11 happened, and that was another moment in my life. Also changed my life in different aspects. But I was part of the first advisory committee for the Department of Homeland Security. That when the Department of Homeland Security was first created.
Right.
Under Governor Rich, I think was the first secretary, and we did joint projects to public sector projects to help facilitate the movement of trade across the ports because everything changed after 9/11. As part of that project, I worked very closely with back then Governor Napolitano from Arizona, who was with her team, and a very good mentor of mine, Marco Lopez, who was mayor of Nogales. And when she was selected by President Obama to be in the as Secretary of Homeland Security, Marco calls me and says, would you consider coming here? Because I was very successful working together with the private sector and the government to get a project that was expanding a bridge. We actually finished the project, did it on time. And so he called. And when I was appointed, it was so interesting because I got a letter of congratulations for the appointment from a Texas Republican senator and from Democrats. So it was.
Love it. That's perfect.
I was a subject matter expert appointee on that piece, and so that's how I ended up coming to DC. Changed my life, but it was. So maybe you never know who's watching and what opportunities will open up.
No, definitely. And then how long have you been in Washington, D.C.?
So since 2009.
Wow.
2008, 2009. I know. Now we're dating myself. Please don't add the
years.
years.
No, I actually
keep it.
Something came up last night and I was talking to somebody and I realized, oh my gosh, I've been here for a while.
Yeah.
Right? I forgot about that. Yeah. So what are some of the lessons from being in that office, especially as like a startup department?
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons that you've carried forward from that experience?
So when I joined CVP, I learned many things, and I think I appreciate learning how to speak government because we all learn to speak different things, right? We speak nonprofit, we speak finance, we speak.
Well, government has a lot of acronyms that nobody knows what they are.
Oh my gosh, the acronyms! So, it is always. But I think I learned three things. One, give grace to others. Always, because you never know what's going on through their life or what responsibilities they have. As part of my responsibility at CVP, I was also the Small Business Ombudsman. And I also had the pleasure at some point within CVP to interact all with private sector. So I learned how much impact regulators have over regulated industries.
Oh, okay.
And so every language or every decision that is made has to really be thought out. And so here I come from the private sector nonprofit and say, why does it take so long to pull this out? And then you realize,
where is my request?
I know.
Why is it taking so long?
And then you realize that you really have to be thoughtful about what are you going to print and put out in a regulation because you're going to have everybody's going to be impacted.
Right.
Including small businesses or large businesses or individuals. And so I learned that second one. And the third one that I learned too is not to believe everything that I read in the media right away.
Okay.
I was head of the public affairs office at CVP, and I learned that you give information to media, and then each outlet, no matter what outlet you have, will publish it differently.
Completely
different, even though it was the same information.
Yes. There's only maybe like one quote that kind of is the same.
Kind of addresses,
but that's a little different.
So I became a cynic. That's when my cynicism started.
You're definitely in Washington, D.C. now.
I know. That's when I was baptized by fire,
totally,
yes.
Totally. I love it. So then you went from that role now to corporate America at UPS. And that's when we first met. So how long were you in the administration and then moved to corporate?
So I was 7.5 years in the administration,
Okay.
and then I went to UPS. Also, you never know who's watching. An opportunity opened up because I was at CBP. I was in charge of the interaction with all the private sector, and I had to work with importers, exporters, brokers. I work with UPS and all
Yeah.
the companies, and that opportunity opened up. And I've been now with UPS 9 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it's very interesting. It's another rhythm, right? Everything has a rhythm. The nonprofit
Definitely.
world, the government world, and then the private sector
Different
world.
cycle throughout the
Yes.
year, whatever that might
Yes.
be, or your fiscal year.
Yes.
It really depends. It's like when we have interns here in the office or new staff, and I say, no matter what time, season of the year you're here, it really kind of takes a whole year
Yes.
to kind of figure out, because we have, as you know, we have different programs at different times of the year, or new people that join, or new sponsors.
Yeah.
So it's very dynamic. And so it's also, I think for me, also a lot of fun. So
no, but
not for everybody, but it is for me.
But I love how you always bring patience to the people, to understand the process, go through the process before you
Yes.
just jump into
Yeah.
it. And
Well, no,
Marianne has to
I do
bring
throw
patience.
people in. Don't get me wrong. It's a
do.
it's a small nonprofit, but I've always told people, because as you know, I'm the eldest of five. So
Yeah.
I'm probably a little more tough love than you are. But I always say, look, that's part of how you learn.
Yeah.
So I'll watch you. Trust me, I'm not gonna let you drown. But if you're gonna trip a little bit, that's fine. You'll survive. I'll pick you up.
Yeah.
That's how we all learned.
I got that the first lunch that I had with Marianne when we
Yes.
first met. She was very, very mellow, but very precise. And yes, I love that.
You would recognize that because so are you. So
Yes.
yeah,
we,
¿verdad?
we connected.
Yeah,
And it was
totally.
great food
Totally.
too. So
Exactly. That's always good. Food is always good.
yes.
So from UPS, I think you've always hosted a lot of interns, and so I think some of the lessons that you share with the interns and some of the experiences there. And I want to ask you specifically because we noted that you always tell the interns and the young adults about leading with professional skills and not personal labels. So share a little bit about that philosophy and where that came from.
Yeah, it is something that as time passes, right? I talk with the interns about how important it is when you have an opportunity open to you and you're gonna do an internship, make certain that you are prepared, that you have done your homework, that you are the best candidate that can be for that
course.
position.
Totally
And
agree.
then you can lead. I happen to be Latina, Latino, men, women, whatever, but lead with, I am the best that you can have at this position as an intern because I prepare myself, I'm a professional. So those
Very
things.
good.
And I think that for me has been a lesson that has been timeless because when you lead with labels, what happens if the labels go away or I
Yeah.
don't know. Labels will not get you the right answer if you have to do a paper or a one pager or a summary.
Right.
What is going to get you a good summary is you doing your homework and making certain that you
Yeah.
write well. So that has been. I always try to tell them that because I learned that in my own job. And that was the toughest job that I have. My first job was as a analyst in Bank One. The bank no longer exists, so don't date me. Right? But it has been bought out. But I learned from a gentleman who was my first boss about doing the detail, paying attention, and that's what saved my career in the bank. And
Yeah,
but it was
especially in money.
in money, yes, in
numbers.
finance. You have
Right,
to put. I was an
right.
accounts receivable inspector.
Yeah.
Check it
That
out.
was your first
That
job.
was my
That was your
first
first
job.
job.
So, but I learned that it doesn't matter your label, your background, how many languages. I mean, languages don't matter, but what matters is that you do the job professionally and follow the process. And so that's what I share
Yeah.
with our interns. You can ask all of them. I always tell them that because I think that's important.
Yeah, it is, and I think sometimes what gets frustrating a little bit here in Washington as well is that there's and from your work, there's like this sense of urgency that
Yes.
there's a certain bill, there's certain things, and then people get this mindset that you have to hurry up, and then the details kind of fall apart.
Yes.
Right. So it's a little bit of a balance
It
in
is.
certain things, even if it's not numbers. There's certain details, and obviously now you're in a big detail
Yeah.
company with logistics, and
Yeah.
so it's really a different kind of
And
a
also-
different a way of looking at it.
It is, and also relationships, and this is where you have to lead with your humanness, your grace. Your is that a word? It's not a word. It's a
That's okay.
technical word,
That's okay.
but it's good. But how you lead, because here in DC, for example, you're gonna need to work with that person again in 6
Right,
months.
right.
Something is gonna come
Right.
back again, and so if you lead with it as a professional and you pay attention to details, that person will remember how
Oh, yeah,
working
totally.
with you was important,
Yeah.
and so that makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. It does make a difference. As the treasurer for the organization, and one of the things that I also loved about when we first met is you just jumped in. You were like, I'm here in this new role. The company's important. I have this expertise. How can I help? And I really appreciated that since the very beginning when we met, because there's a lot of people that are in certain roles, but they don't offer to help. They don't offer to jump in. So thank you again for doing that and moving up to the point where you're the treasurer now. Why is volunteer and being involved, not just with Chile, you're also leadership with the Hispanic Lobbyist Association and other organizations, also at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. So why is that important to you?
I think first I have to say, and I have to give a shout out to UPS and my boss, because that is something that the company does foster is not only giving money. Giving money is easy, but you have to be in the organization that you give the money, participate, make a difference, because that's how you can have the voice and also make certain that you get to know. So I do think, because our my boss, Jedi Master.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him that. Dante Smalls.
Yeah,
He's gonna
yeah,
laugh at
he'll-
this. But allows for that flexibility, and Mike Kylie, our boss,
Right.
on that piece. And so I think that is important. The second one on volunteering, and I think this is very Latino, is I want to give back.
Yes.
How do we help and give back? Because others helped me without me
Oh,
even
yeah.
noticing.
Yeah.
I remember in government when I was at CBP, I had one of my a colleague called me on a Sunday morning, and he was the other Latino in the leadership in the agency, and she said, Maria Luisa, what are you doing? You need to do this and that. He was teaching me about how to survive internally in government politics
okay.
and
Yes.
the dynamics, and he spent an hour of his time
On a Sunday. Yeah, that's
to guide me and mentor me, and that changed my career completely.
Wow.
And so I always remember volunteering is helping, but you never know, it might be a moment. You don't have to be a mentor for life. You can be an informal mentor. It can be a coffee, and you
right.
make a change.
And to your point, you just never know. I think for me, what I've also liked is having those different conversations, realizing change happens.
Yes.
And I get bored easy, so I love the different conversations. I love meeting different people. I love getting to meet the new interns when they start, because they're completely different people when they leave.
Yeah.
It's only one semester, but it's a whole journey sometimes. So it's just fun to be able to help out, because I know as the eldest of five, I always prayed to God that I wanted a big brother and big sister, and so God sent me mentors.
Yeah.
And so I just remember that certain people are going to help you in different ways, and like you said, someone can help you here and someone can help you there. And so thank you for doing that, because I know you have also a full plate, being a mom and other roles that you have in your life. I have two more questions for you. So, at Chile, as you know, we really focus on the bipartisanship. We have the Global Leaders Program for interns, for college students, and we really focus on the diversity of thought, right? That we're not, to your point earlier, we're not all one big label. We're not all just Hispanic or Latino. We come from different backgrounds, different countries. Everybody likes different kinds of beans and rice, where you talk about food.
I know.
So, but when I ask you about diversity of thought, what does that mean to you?
To me, it means that you are an empathetic person that knows and gives grace to others to be able to listen to different ideas. before you jump to
that's awesome.
conclusion. And it is something that has evolved. My answer has evolved.
Your answer. Well, it sounds wonderful right now.
It is well, and it took me years because we all have biases. Biases
Right.
will never
Exactly.
go away. That's what human beings are. But it's how do you give that empathy to others and allow for that conversation?
That's awesome. That's
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
I love it. Okay, see, that's a good quote that any media could include. And then my last question is kind of taking you back to college days. I think I know what the answer is going to be, but what was your favorite class in college and why?
I'm such a nerd. That was just a few years ago. My favorite college course was accounting, and please don't stop watching. I know, I'm such a nerd.
I kind of had a feeling, but okay.
I loved accounting because it was the toughest class I had, the toughest teacher. I went to the Universidad Externado de Colombia in Bogotá. I studied finance and international relations. And this teacher was such a taskmaster. And that
was your favorite class?
And it was my favorite class.
That's not how I picked my favorite class.
It was my favorite class because I learned, he told us at the beginning, if you don't work at least an hour and a half a day, every day in the homework and what we're learning, you're going to fail. And I took the first test and he was right. I did fail. And so I look back, but I loved it because that's why I love numbers. Numbers always fall into place.
Yeah.
And the tenacity of working hard. He's the one who taught me about always work hard. Don't complain about the work. Just do it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And learn, and so that's why.
Well, and numbers is also, quite honestly, an international language.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, and there's precision, there's detail.
Yeah.
No matter what country you have your degree in, math is math.
Yes.
So that's going to be an international language.
It is.
So.
I love numbers. I know they're great, and Excel sheet is the best thing ever. So
awesome. So we're to close out. Obviously, you're very familiar with the audience. We have interns, we have young professionals, we have people in the Chile familia over the years listening and watching. Any other last bit of advice to somebody that's in the familia that you'd like to share?
I love the Chile familia. Take advantage of it. Don't take it for granted. Continue to build from it and give back and continue to participate and open doors for others. I think it's the message. But thank you, Marianne, for your leadership and your voice and for keeping us together, pulling us together. So that's maybe the message. And I should say, may the force be with all of you.
Yes.
It's the week, yeah.
It's that week, yes. So again, thank you, Maria Luisa, for joining us on the Chile Purple Line podcast. Great nuggets of advice from different experiences you've had. Again, really wrapping that up into nonprofit, the government sector, and corporate America. Muchísimas gracias, Maria Luisa.
Gracias, Marianne.
Thanks for listening to The Purple Line. Follow us on social media at The Chile, at THECHLI. Thank you for joining us on The Purple Line.